What is crackin'? Thank you so much for listening to the show. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It really would mean the world to me. It makes a massive, massive difference. It really does. So I appreciate that well in advance. This podcast, of course, is always brought to you by Bar Nana. It's a company that I co-founded with my two business partners in 2013. And we make the most tasty and organic snacks that you can put inside your mouth. You can pick them up at places like Whole Foods. You can also get them at barnana.com using code NIK to get 20% off your very first order. On this episode, we have Shaina Zaidi. She is the founder of TuMe, which is the most delicious turmeric-infused water you can put inside of your body to keep it hydrated and absent of inflammation. It basically is a drink that says, "Hold my beer, Gatorade." And with that, please welcome Shaina Zaidi.
Welcome to the Nik Ingersoll Show.
What's up, Shaina? How are we today?
I'm great, Nick. I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
Likewise. Thanks for coming on the show and talking shit with me. It'll be fun.
Absolutely.
So I want to start by asking you a couple of things about turmeric. So turmeric's a substance that I've used for quite a long time, especially for inflammation. If I get injured or something like that, I take it in the pill form or even topicals, and certainly in beverages and everything else. What are sort of like the actual healing properties of turmeric? It's something that's been used for a long time in other parts of the world, but I'm curious to hear from you, being the expert on the subject, sort of like, what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's been used for thousands of years, as you said, mostly in Southeast Asia, Asian countries, where it grows rapidly. And basically, the biggest thing about it is that it's an anti-inflammatory. So, it's been used for soreness, swelling, headaches, basically all the inflammation in your body. It helps to eradicate it, minimize it, attack it at the cellular level. It really acts as like food, medicine that is just food. So.
Right. And it's interesting because turmeric's like, it's been around for so long, but then all of a sudden it's like this super brand new thing, right? And you're like, buy at Erewhon for $1 billion a pint or whatever. And
yep.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I feel like there's a lot of things that we used to use as the human race back in the day that just kind of got lost somehow, or maybe isolated to a certain part of the world. What parts of the world would you say were sort of the highest consumers of turmeric traditionally?
I would say in India. India is probably the highest consumer. It's used in all different types of culinary dishes. It's used in vegetable dishes, chicken curry. All of those masala has turmeric in it, used initially for the color, for the flavor, also for the medicinal properties, because most of their food really has Ayurvedic medicine built into the ingredients.
Ayurvedic medicine, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Ayurvedic. I'm going to pull that word out. I'm definitely stealing that. And also
absolutely.
Probably using it.
That includes ashwagandha, that includes cumin, that includes all of those spices and herbs that are really, really good for you. So
interesting. Were there like certain subcultures or certain sects of religions that used that general type of healing more than others?
I mean, I believe so. That's where I'm not total expert.
Yeah.
My dad is originally from Pakistan. His parents were born in India, so they grew up on turmeric. They grew up on herbal remedies. They grew up on Ayurvedic medicine. They had, tulsi tea, chai tea every day. So for them, it was part of their culture. I don't know how it plays a role in religion, actually, because when brides were to get married, they would have like a whole ritual where there would be a turmeric paste that would be applied to their body, and that would to bring out the glow of the skin. In preparation for their big day.
Whoa.
So it is used like in all aspects, and even in art. So again, because it has that color, natural dye that brings out that yellow color. So definitely they're more into it. Thankfully, it has been passed down to me where it's just something that I grew up on without even knowing. I had a bruise. I had a sore throat, any kind of problem, it was literally go see grandma and she'll make something for you. And it usually had turmeric in it. And then later on, I was like, what was that magic that I was consuming when I was little? How do I get it more in my diet now? So.
Wow, that's fascinating. So your grandma would cook it up as like sort of a cure-all.
Yeah,
she'd
have these leaves, like banana leaves and all types of leaves, and she'd put all sorts of ingredients in there, some paste, some dry herbs, and we'd either eat that or she'd crush them up and she'd make it into a paste that we'd apply topically, or she'd cook with it and we'd have it in a dish. So definitely.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like the food and food as medicine trend is fascinating, because it was like, back in the day in various different cultures around the world, that was sort of the thing, right? Like it was, obviously they had a bunch of other weird practices that were just like didn't work, bleeding you of your sickness and things. But some of that food as medicine stuff has been around for so long, and it's only now that food companies and young startups like the one that you have are actually doing something that is bringing it back full circle.
Right. I mean, I don't know why we strayed away from it. I mean, obviously, I feel like we're a little too young that we weren't in charge of that movement. But people then definitely turn to more artificial, more processed foods. I think probably from a convenience standpoint is why, and a taste standpoint, and our obsession with sugar kind of created this movement, of sodas and junk food and fast food that we have mostly in the US. Obviously in other parts of the world, they're still eating off the land. They're still eating their own farmed food. So I'm happy to see that it's a change again. It's good for us, obviously.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because like certain parts of the world are even worse than the U.S. Like Mexico, right? Yep. I mean, I think it's primarily because of soda consumption, and depending on sort of what culture your background is from, the diets were so different way back in the day. Right. Like if you think about sort of the Scandinavian environment where my bloodline is from, everybody is just basically surviving on fish and like seals or whatever, right? It wasn't even like you couldn't really grow much in the ice and snow. True. And then you go to somewhere like Thailand and it's purely fruits, more or less, like super, plant-based diets, right. And everywhere in between. Right. What other sorts of, so turmeric's an interesting thing because it's this root, right? Correct. And it's like this yellowish orange, sort of really dark, like like it'll stain your fingers if you get, I actually cracked open one of the pills on accident. My entire hands were just like bright orange for 2 days.
Exactly.
What's sort of in the same family as turmeric? So you have like ginger. Is ginseng sort of in the same kind of thing? Or?
As far as being a root or a rhizome, I mean, in that way, they're all kind of related. We think of ginger as turmeric's cousin. Turmeric being the super root and ginger being also having its great properties and its benefits. And so basically most of those rhizomes, especially where they originated from or where they grow rapidly in tropical environments, those ones tend to have similar properties, antioxidant being the number one commonality between them. And then also just how you can consume them. You can have them raw as the root. You can they're heat tolerant, so you can boil them and make them into a tea. You can use them in cooking, and you still maintain all the properties of them.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. And so what is the functional difference between curcumin and turmeric?
Well, curcumin is found in turmeric. So I like to think of it when I speak just generally, it's like the potassium in bananas. So it's like the main powerful, ingredient. And curcuminoids, there's 3 types of them that grow or are the properties of it in turmeric, and they all have a little bit of a different function, a little different chemical makeup. So that's
fascinating. Yeah, it's like I've had quite a few sports injuries, as you're well aware, or motorcycle injuries for that matter. And so I feel like
it's still a sport. So
it's still a sport, kind of. Yeah, especially in Los Angeles when you're splitting lanes all the time.
Right.
Trying not to get murdered by vehicles.
Jeez.
But I feel like turmeric at least every time that I experience some sort of injury, I'm like borderline ODing on turmeric. So I'll take like 5,000 milligrams in a pill. I'll drink some TuMe. I'll do anything that I can do to get it in my system.
No, it's great. I mean, normally we're not getting enough of it in our system. So it's always good to have it and add it. So it makes an incremental difference over your life. So it's almost just like an added ingredient that's in your daily routine. But it does have those powers that when you are injured or when you are hurt, that it can help heal the body. So
yeah, and it is the idea that it's better to sort of consume, I wouldn't say a micro dose, but like a daily dose of turmeric for a long period of time, more than sort of what I'm doing, which is just like an acute overdose.
Strategy. I mean, both works. I mean, both. Obviously, anytime you get it is great, but having it daily is key. In fact, there's been some doctors that have done some research and gone to different parts of the world to see, who's living the longest. And there's like a growing population community of centurions coming from Asia that they went to see how are these women living to be over 100 years old, like generation after generation. How is that possible? And one of the aspects and one of the things that they found was that they have turmeric in their daily diet. So they're getting it every single day. And because of that, it's adding to their life.
Right. Interesting. That's so fascinating. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Turmeric's like, I don't know, I have like a very close relationship with it, I feel good, like,
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm injured all the time, but yeah.
No, it's, I do too. And it's great. I mean, I definitely think it's something that everybody isn't aware of how to get into their diet. Ironically, it's in mustard. So turmeric is in mustard. It's been in mustard for forever, since mustard was invented, I guess, or used or packaged. And it's because it helps make it yellow. That's why they use it as more of a natural color. But you'll notice that there's runners, ultra marathon runners, people that do outdoor activities, that they'll take packets of mustard with them. And they didn't really know the association. They were just know that if they cramp up or if they need something, they'll eat a mustard pack. And it's because, I mean, there's just trace amounts of turmeric in there, but it is because of that is why it helps. It's not necessarily the mustard seed that's doing that.
So you're running a marathon. You're like almost dead, suffering, and you're like, what would be so good? Mustard pack. It's hardcore, dude.
It is. It is.
Hardcore.
But since starting, and getting more involved and using that as an ingredient for our company, I've heard people tell me that all the time. All the time.
That's fascinating. Yeah. So with the drinks, then you have at least what I had seen on the market previously is like you would have a turmeric beverage, and then you would just have a giant pile of it. It's sort of the bottom of whatever the liquid happened to be.
Right.
But with TuMe and what you've made, it's like suspended somehow or like blended in a way that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I know.
Magic?
I mean, pretty much, pretty much is magic. Now, I have to definitely thank, we're fortunate, and when my dad and I started it and we wanted to kind of go into the kitchen and make something that I could basically starting off that I can consume daily while I'm working out, and something better than what was out there. And we were fortunate that we were able to partner with the food scientist that has back to that word again, 16 patents in Ayurvedic medicine, and just really knows how to use different herbs to make, increase their bioavailability, make them more water soluble. So that way you don't have that just sediment that just sits at the bottom of the bottle, because not only does it doesn't look good, and not only it just doesn't seem as appetizing, but it also affects how you consume it, because not everyone's drinking till that very bottom. So as you're taking each sip, you're not consuming those ingredients. They're staying at the bottom. And so if you don't finish the bottle and you don't have that chalky taste at the end in most drinks, then you're not getting those ingredients.
Right.
So that was a big focus for us, and just trying to use a little bit of technology, of food technology, to kind of be able to make sure that it was easily dispersed. So we do still have some that comes to the bottom, but a good shake and you're good to go. So, yeah.
And the shake is pretty light. Like the turmeric drink that I had back in the day, this is like, I don't know, 2000 13. So it's a long ass time ago.
Yeah.
And I think I found it in like this. I used to have this habit of just going to all these random like Vietnamese markets and stuff.
Oh, right.
And just like buying random stuff.
Yeah.
And there was some in there. And I didn't know what it was because it was like in Chinese or Vietnamese. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And I would just go in like buy a random something every week.
Right.
And it was a turmeric beverage, but I didn't know to shake it up. And so I'm drinking this shit and I'm like, oh, it tastes pretty good. I'm drinking the thing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden at the very end of the drink, I go to like do the last gulp.
Yep.
And I took the fattest gulp of the just like pure like powder with like soaked in liquid. It was terrible.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
I was like,
yeah.
The taste was insane.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes we do when we're trying to get good food in our bodies. Sometimes we'll, do that plug your nose and gulp whatever you need to do, almost like put it down like medicine. But, when we wanted to make something that you can enjoy and you can use as hydration, and while you're working out or while you're performing, you're able to sip on it, you don't really want to have that taste that you experienced. So, so that was kind of like a main focus for us.
And for you guys too, it's like it's a hydration play in a lot of ways, right?
Right.
And so this is like sort of an all-day hydrating thing. And then also, when you're playing sports, the interesting thing to me at least is, a lot of these sports beverages, your Gatorade or your Powerade or whatever, it's like it's mostly food coloring and sugar with a pinch of salt. Like it's not, you shouldn't really be drinking that stuff almost ever. And so the interesting thing about what you have going on is you have something that actually reduces the inflammation in your body after you work out.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. Do people, from your experience, do they sort of understand that piece of like, you have a sports background, you played basketball in college. Like, do you think that people sort of understand that?
I think they're starting to. And part of it, even when learning about how it does that and how turmeric helps with inflammation after sport, I immediately got excited because that means you don't have to go to, a cold pool afterwards. You don't have to ice as much. That was in my thought process. I mean, I know people have different theories about, ice and cold and the cryo and whatnot as far as how they work or if they work. But for me, it was always, okay, your body's really sore. You jump in the cold pool or you could take an ice bath, and to be able to have something that you don't necessarily have to do that because you're healing yourself from within, that was exciting enough for me. And I think people are starting to realize, just trying to find other remedies outside of seeing a trainer or having to suffer, and they want to get it in things that they're already consuming during their sport. So that's where having an alternative really kicks in. Yeah.
And when you were, involved in playing college ball, what was like the worst part of recovery? Was the ice bath?
Yeah, ice bath, 100%. Ice bath. That feeling like you can't even get up and you can't walk, and then having to go into the ice bath and put these little booties on your feet so that way your toes wouldn't freeze. Yeah, the ice baths were the worst, and we had to do them. So. And
did you go arms in or arms out?
Arms in.
Oof.
A lot of times, not all the times.
Arms
a lot
in
of times.
is brutal.
Yeah, all the way up to the neck. So just all the way up to the neck, I would go sometimes because like if your back or your arms, but yeah, it's tough for sure. It helped. I mean, I feel like it helped. I believe in that type of treatment, but that was tough.
Yeah, the ice bath is. I go to a Russian spa, which is like a contrast therapy spa, essentially. So you go into this giant brick oven, essentially, where it's like 220 degrees of just like murderous heat.
Yeah.
And then you jump into the ice plunge, and it's like, it's water, but it's like 32.1 degrees. You know what I mean? It's just like barely above freezing.
Yeah.
And so I just try and stay in there for as long as humanly possible. But man,
that's
it's
tough.
cold.
That's tough. Yeah, I was like, I've done something similar at a spa. And I was going to say, obviously, you're more extreme than I am because a brick oven, I go into a sauna and then I go into a cold pool. So it's a little different. But even in the cold pool, I believe it gets to those low of temperatures and I can only last for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. It's funny when I go in there, my whole goal is to just stay in for as long as humanly possible, more or less. And so I'll go in and I try and stay in there for around 5 minutes at a time.
Jeez.
Which is pretty extreme.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
But, I'll go in there.
Wow.
It's funny because in there, like I'm doing it for mostly sports recovery, right? And when I'm in there, I see everybody else it's mostly like old dudes, just like doing their sauna thing, whatever. And most don't even go in, but the ones that do yelp when they go in. They go like, ah! I'm just like, fucking pussies, what are you doing?
And it's for like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah, in and out immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can only imagine them getting
Wow.
like an ice bath. It's just not gonna happen.
Wow. Yeah, and then it does stuff to your. You have to be really focused and calm because I've tried to sit in it for longer periods of time and not quite 5 minutes, maybe like a minute. And when I get out, I'm lightheaded, a little bit dizzy because your body kind of goes into shock in a good way to heal yourself. But yeah, you got to be calm, and it's almost like meditating in there.
Yeah, you almost have to meditate because you get these, these cold reactive cytokines, and that sort of help your body recover. And when you're in there and it's just like so fucking cold, and you don't know what to do, you just have to like breathe.
Yeah, I'm terrible at that.
And relax, because otherwise
you're
like
a goner.
Yeah, your heart's weird. It's hard to breathe if you're not used to it too. Like when you get in an ice bath, you remember like first time you went in there, and then all of a sudden like all the air just gets sucked out of your body. Like,
yep.
Get me out of this place.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
What do you think about cryotherapy and that whole thing?
I'm a believer in it. I mean, it's similar as we've been talking about to, putting yourself in cold temperatures and ice or ice bath, and it's another form of that in my opinion, and helps with relaxation. I know I haven't gone too much in the studies of it. Not a physical therapist, and my expertise in medicine doesn't exceed knowing about turmeric. But in the sense, I do believe in it. I think it helps a lot. I do definitely think it helps. And a friend of mine has a cryo cafe, as they call it. And so it's really helpful. Even they do like facials. So to kind of like stimulate the skin in your face, to firm it up, and to also relax and help ease out some of the wrinkles, and it's good for that as well. So,
sign me up.
Yeah, I know, right? It's pretty good. Yeah.
You're never getting younger.
No.
Never.
No.
Yeah, age is undefeated. It's always gonna get you.
Exactly.
So hold on. So I saw someone doing this on Instagram the other day, and they had it was like a little wand or something like that, and the girl was like laying down on a table, and she like got out of a cryo chamber and then jumped on this table, and then had like this cryo wand getting like put on her face. Is that sort of the thing?
That's what the thing is. Yeah, it's like a mobile unit, so they just can be able to do it topically to wherever your face or your shoulder, your elbow, and use it in that way. So you're not just going in the chamber, that you can just apply it to certain areas. Oh. And it's like a little wand.
Interesting. So you can also do that not just to become 22 again or whatever, but you can actually use it to sort of acutely treat a certain part of your body.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've done it on my knee a little bit. It's helped. I've done it on my shoulder, on my elbow. So I feel like I'm a firm believer in all of that helps, being an athlete and having gone through all that we go through, just any way that we can get a little bit, alleviate some of the pain and just help heal our bodies sign me up, know?
Well, it's, when you're competitive in athletics like you and I both are, it's like you're always more prone to injury because you're just going hard and you just want to win. So.
And then when your relaxed time is riding a motorcycle, then of course.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. But I feel like all those remedies, you almost have to do them. Have you ever had any crazy sports injuries before?
I'm blessed. I'm very, very happy and thankful that I haven't had anything outside of a fractured ankle, which for basketball kind of comes with the territory. It's nothing that serious. Well, I mean, it is, but it isn't.
No big deal.
To the normal person, probably it is. But 3 months, just do a little rehab and you're back out there. I was able to play the next season, so it was okay. And then I did break my finger, and I had to have surgery. But thankfully, I was able to have a good doctor, get surgery, rest for 2 weeks, and then was out there playing again. So
I love how I asked you, like, hey, have you ever had any, like, big injuries?
Yeah.
You're like, no, I didn't really. I mean, snapped my ankle in half and busted my finger and had surgery. But yeah, no, other than that,
I mean,
pretty good.
I know, exactly. As I was saying it, I was like, I guess these are significant, but not, if I'm able to play and I'm able to still continue on, then for me, I'm thankful that it wasn't that serious.
Yeah,
So
word.
Yeah.
And so were both of those injuries because of basketball? And actually, maybe what is sort of your background in basketball, and where did you play, and all of that? It's a fascinating
absolutely.
story.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of them were with basketball. One was in a game, and the finger was in pickup, so just practice. And I grew up actually playing tennis and basketball. Since I was about 4 years old, tennis, and then 4th grade basketball, and was fortunate to be pretty good at it, and went and played at UCLA. So I played basketball at UCLA, and afterwards continued my career and played overseas for 4 years. So I was in Germany for all 4 seasons. I played for the German Basketball League, but also got to travel and play against other countries in Europe, and had an amazing experience, and was able to continue and do what I love to do and explore the world. So it was wonderful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is so
fun.
awesome.
I encourage anybody and everybody to travel. I mean, it's a big thing, to be able to learn from other people in other parts of the world, and then also to be doing something that you love. Yeah, it doesn't get better than that.
Right. Did you pick up any Deutsch?
Ja, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch.
Oh, wow.
Aber ist nicht sehr gut, aber yeah.
Yeah, I speak zero German.
I was all ready for you to come out with a sentence or something.
I know. I had 2 German roommates in college, and so I only know like the cuss words because we'd be playing like a video game. That,
Scheiße.
die or something. Yeah, Scheiße.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
I still use that. Yeah. I still use that. So
when you were playing basketball over there, what countries were the most badass to play?
Well, most of the time I was playing in Germany. So, but even from being in there, like things that would normally be called fouls here in the States, or that I grew up, that's not how you play. That's a little too rough. Over there, it was all game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was all game. Especially they don't protect the guards very much for some reason. They protect the centers and people closer to the basket. But when you're out on the perimeter or you're dribbling the ball, if you're getting banged around, you're getting hit. There was times when I literally looked at the ref and was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you've now reffed most of my games this season, and you're not going to call that?"
Wow.
And actually, one time, one of them told me, "Well, you're good enough. You can handle it." I was like, this is a professional league. This is what you say. So, yeah, it's intense. But, they're pretty badass out there.
Wow, that actually surprises me because, I don't watch any sports other than fighting sports really, but I grew up playing basketball and football and everything else. And, I feel like the number one sport that everybody watches over there, of course, is soccer. Mm-hmm. And if you ever watch professional soccer, it is hard for me to watch because everybody is such a fucking bitch in that, like, everyone's just like
they fall down.
Oh my god, the flopping is one of the most egregious things I have ever seen.
They look like they got
life.
Shot, and then they just get up and play the rest of the game.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm watching like Alexander Gustafsson and John Jones beat the living shit out of each other 5 minutes at a time, crack, head kicks, elbows, knees, and they're fine.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, and so like my perception was probably basketball over there is even more nerfed up, but it's actually less.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
It is. And soccer, yes, football is the number one sport, and then basketball actually is second in a lot of those countries. So fortunately, it was in Germany, and they'd come to the gym same way they do to the soccer stadiums. They'd have their big drums, and they would be pounding like the big drums. They'd be doing their chants, all of that. It was pretty wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what position did you play?
I played point guard, shooting guard. So
point guard, shooting guard.
So brought up the ball, but also can shoot pretty well. So can move over to the wing and shoot.
Yeah, I saw you playing a game of pickup somewhere on your Instagram story the other day. And you trained to 3.
I still try to play from time to time, and it's kind of fun because just in the basketball culture, there's been, bringing it back to Instagram and social media, there's a lot of social influencers that are doing, parodies to pros and making funny, cool videos, just mimicking some of the situations that happen mostly in the NBA or with the players. And so I've become friends with quite a few of them. And so to have them to be able to they actually can play. They're actually really good. They're not just making jokes on Instagram. So we set up a pickup game with a lot of them, and it was pretty fun.
That's interesting, with sort of the major sports like, the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and the NHL, all that stuff that I don't watch. What fascinates me is like you have one major league that is just dominant. Over all, like there is no other, maybe you have AAA in baseball or whatever, but it's not really taken that seriously.
Yeah.
And somehow with MMA, and of course it's a newer sport, you have the UFC, which is predominantly the major player, right? But you also have a whole bunch of just smaller professional leagues, but they're just, smaller and doing their thing. And I just wonder if there's not a market opportunity for things like basketball.
Oh yeah, there are. It's funny that you said that, because just the big three. The Big Three is a league that started up, which is a 3-on-3 competition, and so that's one piece of it.
Is that the the geriatric league?
No, well, I mean, I guess
all the retired players.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still good. They're still good.
I guess better than me, but
hey, it's becoming a thing. I guess people are really into it, and they're still playing, great basketball, but that's one aspect. There's leagues, especially in California. I mean, California has the Drew League, which has been going around for a long time, and a lot of the pros come and play in it. So
the Drew League?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
What is the Drew League?
It's basically a summer league. It's a summer basketball league, and mostly it's for professional players, like NBA players come and play in it. You're like overseas players, some college players, and it's just basically a chance for them to play in the summer, in the off season of the actual basketball season. And it's started at King Drew Magnet School, and it's been there in Compton, and it's been there for the past, 20 years or so. And all the pros come back to it and play in it and battle in it. And it's official, so I don't want to say unofficial. It's an official league, but it's not a professional league.
Right.
So
it's like an amateur pickup league kind of hybrid
that turned into something greater and bigger and more meaningful. So
wow, that's cool. That's cool. Do you remember the And One Street Ball Tour?
Yeah, for sure.
What happened to And One?
I don't know. International, I think it still does well, like in most Asian countries, but I don't really. I mean, that's where I hear of it still being around. But
yeah, dude, And One. So And One, back in the day when we were kids, it was like this. It was a basketball tournament, but also they started making socks and like sneaks.
I had shirts.
And One was dope. For I don't know how long it was. Maybe when I was at the age of 8 to 11 or something like that.
Probably.
But somehow it just fizzled out and went away. And then I was in Nebraska in November at a Walmart, which
you saw some,
and I saw And One sneakers.
No way.
$20 a pair.
You didn't cop them? You didn't get them?
You damn right I did. You damn right I did. $20 for some And One sneaks.
That's too funny.
So I bought them, and they're okay. They're fine shoes, but apparently And One is just relegated to the super cheap sneak market now somehow. I would just who founded And One? I want to get him on the podcast, him or her, or whoever they are.
Definitely.
Yeah, And One.
I know someone that's part of the Slam magazine, and they obviously did a lot of things with And One and just basketball and basketball culture. So it's interesting, how it just phased out, or I see stuff on The Professor. Remember, The Professor was one of the basketball stars that used to do all kinds of different tricks. I still see things of him on Instagram and social media and whatnot. So
yeah, what do you think about the Harlem Globetrotters?
I think they're great. It's an act. It's entertaining.
It's almost
for some people.
It's like WWE for basketball.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, I would agree with that. Pretty much.
So you get a team of scrubs, and then you put the team of dudes who can play.
Yeah.
And then they just get dunked on.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, WWE. Exactly. It's all for show. So it's not really serious. You're not really going out there to beat someone, you already know you're going to beat them. You
Yeah.
know? So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Are the
That's a good
Globetrotters
comparison.
undefeated?
Probably. I don't even know, to be honest.
Gotta be, right? They gotta be undefeated.
Yeah.
So I think it's fascinating to think about sort of the rule sets in various types of sports, and maybe the reason that I think about it in that way is, of course, with MMA, it's very new, and so the rules have changed a lot over time.
Right.
But if you were to change, call it change or modify three, or eliminate or add 3 rules in basketball, what would they be? Would it be like traveling? Would it be more lenient or more strict fouling? Or
That's tough because it has been changing as well as far as what their emphasis is on that they call, just like the travel. I mean, those that have seen James Harden play and his step back and step back. It's, when I learned to play basketball, that was a travel.
Oh yeah, you'd be called immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And the Euro step, even that. Why do we call it the Euro step? Because it's when you essentially take like almost 3 steps, and how you're allowed 2 steps in basketball to make a layup or without dribbling, right? And so most of the time it's like a 1-2, and then you lay the ball in. Well, with the Euro step, you take a 1 kind of at an angle, and then you take the other one and the opposite direction to kind of like lean your body around a defender. So it's like you're not just going 1-2 layup, you're moving 1 to the one side, then the other to the other side. And so it's called the Euro step, but it's almost a travel. It used to be called a travel here, and now, I guess because we have more international players playing in the highest leagues, that now it's allowed. So there's certain rules that have already kind of been in place. They moved the 3-point line back in college basketball to be more in tune with the professional NBA and WNBA. So there's already been a lot of rules change. I don't honestly, watching the game right now, I don't know if I personally would change anything. So
yeah,
there's a lot of talk, especially around the women's game, to lower the hoop, or
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mixed. I have mixed feelings, so it's like
says a dude that doesn't play women's basketball.
It's all right.
But, it's a co-ed sport.
But
in a
if
lot
that
of ways.
means that would be more entertaining for you, I mean, it definitely needs.
That's my point.
Needs more of an audience, and especially more from the male audience to support it. So it is something, kind of to toss and turn over, and it's already a smaller ball. It's a closer 3-point line. So, but women are stronger, and just think the game is evolving. The WNBA is, I think, at least 25 years behind the NBA. So it needs time to catch up. And there's women that can dunk now on the 10-foot hoop. So
how many?
I don't know, a handful. You're right, but still.
Yeah, I do feel like I mean, women's and men's sports have always been different, right? And they don't compete against each other professionally for a reason.
Right.
So, like, why wouldn't you have a different set of, whether it's like the height of a volleyball net, or the size of the ball, or women generally are just, not all, but are smaller than men. So, why wouldn't you proportionally sort of switch the stuff instead of just taking, we did it for the dudes, so now we're just going to give it to everybody the same. It's like, can you imagine like little kids, like 5-year-olds with a NBA-sized ball trying to throw it into a giant?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you bring up a good point when you say it like that, because then it doesn't just make women feel inferior. It's
not about that. Yeah,
exactly. The makeup, genetic makeup, even, the physicality of it, the evolution in sports. It makes for an interesting conversation. It's tough. It's tough being a woman and having to speak so much about equality and empowerment, to then feel like you're bringing in something that is a handicap for us. So it makes things a little difficult.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It's like a very nuanced conversation, right? Because I feel like, at least the way that I see it, it's not a handicap. It's just like, well, if you took the average height of males and the average height of females, dudes are taller.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
So like what? And so proportionally, let's like reduce the height of the hoop to that proportion, right? And then and now it's like exactly the way it should be. At least that's how I would think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The reason that I like that idea is because, I think that the WNBA has struggled to get that sort of broad, like mainstream attention. And they play great basketball.
Right.
And so it's not due to a lack of skill. And I think that the NBA, they benefit from things like Vince Carter dunking on some dude's face, right? And like
he's over 40 now. Do you know that? And he's still doing that.
He's doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
But like the dunking aspect of basketball, I think is just so visually stimulating for audiences that the more you could encourage that, the better, probably.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely agree. And I think, it's going to continue to be a conversation. So the powers that be may eventually do that. It just makes it difficult, I feel like, then in the college arena, in high school, because most hoops, you're not really lowering them. So how would that work out? And transforming basically every gym in the country may be a little bit more of an undertaking. So
right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, actually. Yeah, logistically, that seems like a straight up nightmare.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a girls game, then a guys game. Nope, no more back-to-backs, because what high school is going to be able to Staples Center, they can turn it into ice in an hour.
Maybe we just lower the hoop for everybody.
Yeah.
More dunks. More dunks.
Nik wants high flying, that's it. Yeah.
I think you either raise it or you lower it. I think you either...
Why would you raise it?
because the reason you would raise it is...
Next topic.
I think we raise it for everybody so no one can dunk.
Oh, yeah, then no one watches it? We kill basketball.
Yeah, that would kill basketball. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if you took away the dunk? When I was in 8th grade, so in 8th grade I was already like 6'1", 6'2". So like I just went and I grew like an inch or 2 inches after that, and then that was it. So I was always playing center. When I was younger, and back then in 8th grade, I didn't know. So when you're doing the warm-ups, you're not allowed to dunk, right?
Right.
Well, I had just learned how to dunk in 8th grade, and so I was so jazzed to just like show off the dunk.
I bet.
And so I'm in the warm-ups, and I'm going boom, 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 and I just slam it and just grab the rim and snap it. And
you didn't break it, did you?
No, I mean, no, not at all. But I hit that rim and dunked it, and I was like, yeah, I was just so stoked. And then all of a sudden, it's technical foul.
Wow. What a way to start the game.
Oh my God. Talk about embarrassing. I was like, in my mind, I was like, dude, I'm going to go in there, do this dunk in the warm-up. It's going to be awesome. And then I'm the asshole getting a technical foul before the game starts. So hilarious.
Oh my goodness. I would love to see that. That would have been hilarious.
Oh my God.
Would have been like, no, sit down.
I was like, what? What do you mean I can't? What?
Yeah. That's too funny.
Yeah.
You still play? Not really, right?
Not so much anymore. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely play a game of pickup right now. I do enjoy playing, hopefully without snapping my ankles or ACL or something like that.
Yeah, no.
Do you think ACLs are the number one injury in basketball?
Definitely I would say in women's sports in general, for sure it is, because we're mostly quad dominant, I've learned. But for basketball for both men and women, I think it probably is that or an ankle injury. And now you're seeing a lot more Achilles injuries, which is interesting. Oof. It has to do with, again, the high flying, the type of shoes that people are wearing. All of that plays a role in it. But
are there regulations with the shoes?
Well, it's interesting. I just started to look more into it just because there was a color regulation before that it had to match, the jersey color. It had to be predominantly a certain color, and it's evolved over time. Michael Jordan kind of paved the way for that, and he's the one with I think it was the Air Jordan 1 that they brought out, like this red and black shoe that just kind of set everybody on fire. And from there, now the color regulation has been removed, so anybody can wear any color at any time on the court. So But it's also interesting because APL is a brand that they put in their technology that I guess it could help with jumping, or it can help you get more airtime with some of the technology they put in their shoe, and they were banned from the NBA. So no one can wear APL shoes while playing basketball, I guess.
Yeah, talk about the greatest piece of marketing you can have as a shoe company.
Absolutely.
So
those guys are
every
genius.
Single high school kid everywhere.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
They won't even let Kobe Bryant wear their shit.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that's what it did for Jordan too at that time when they brought on Jordan Brand and Nike, when they brought Jordan on and they made that shoe, because then they just basically said banned by the NBA, and then everybody and their mom wanted to to have a pair of them because even skaters were wearing them. Everyone was wearing them. There's a documentary that just got put out talking about it, and it's on Hulu. It's pretty cool. So
interesting. What's the documentary called?
I just escaped.
Probably just search what Jordan
Unbanned.
shoe.
What is it? I think it's. Oh man, I gotta think of it because it's a really amazing. I don't know why it just escaped me because I just think of Jordan, right? But a really amazing female producer put it together too. So
that's
something
dope
to check out.
Yeah, my favorite basketball player growing up was Dennis Rodman.
Really?
Yeah,
hardcore, huh? Yeah, just climb. He was amazing. If you really think about it, he really owned his role as being like the best rebounder ever. And he just sacrificed his body, sacrificed everything for his team. But he could shoot too. He could play, everything. So
he's also just a crazy motherfucker.
Yeah, I already know that's why you like him. So say no more.
Yeah, he's like broke the mold. He's like, just getting crazy lip piercings and wearing dresses in public, and just like being a
riding motorcycles and just being badass. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. What other sports do you find fascinating besides basketball? Do you watch anything else?
Yeah, I love sports. So I watch tennis too because, again, I grew up playing it. I've now recently started watching MMA and UFC actually because one of my best friends and one of our business partners, he doesn't compete, but he trains in the off season because he plays in the NFL, but in the off season he trains. And so he's always watching the fights. And at first I couldn't even stomach like seeing the blood and seeing them knock each other out. But now I've kind of gotten to like it just because you see all the preparation that goes into it and you can appreciate more of all the work and having people like yourself that I'm now around and that appreciate the sport as well. So MMA is something that I've taken to. Baseball, when I'm at a game, I can't really watch it on TV. Yeah, it's tough for me. And I appreciate all sports though. So
yeah, I got an idea for baseball. You ready for this? This is on top of my list of bad ideas for sports I don't watch. I know. I don't watch basketball.
That's a whole nother
Raise the hoop.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, it's I think that you should implement. So in hockey they have the enforcer on the bench that just comes out and beats somebody.
Starts fights.
Yeah, or the refs, they'll just let you fight someone else in the middle of the ice for no reason. You just do it.
Yeah.
So I think since baseball is so boring, you just have, and there's fights in baseball a lot, right? The bench is clear, whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck all that. We don't need benches cleared and all sorts of weirdness. If the pitcher or the batter want to beat the other dude up, same thing. You just umpire goes in there and then they get 15 seconds to scrap.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me?
No.
They're just going to start fighting?
Yeah. I think it'd be way more exciting.
I guess. Instead of 7th inning stretch, you have the 3rd inning fight, right?
Yeah, whoever has the beef can just go in there and squash it.
I think it would be better than them trying to throw the ball at when the pitcher gets pissed and then they throw it to intentionally make a ball and hit them. There's a lot of injuries that happen like that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
You ever been smacked with a baseball?
No.
Oh man.
You have?
Oh yeah. I used to play baseball, of course, and then I was always a bigger kid, so I'd be able to kind of fake my age and umpire baseball for kids that were my age or older than me, which you're not supposed to do, obviously, when I was in high school. But I was making $30 a game, which for me back in the day was killing the game. And so the thing is, if somebody swings the bat and they hit the ball and the ball goes backwards, like a foul ball, it actually increases in its speed than just with the pitch.
Wow.
And I remember I got smacked in the shoulder by one and I just had this baseball-sized chunk of skin was just gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
Baseball's dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
For sure.
When you're throwing
and then you want to add fights to it.
Yeah.
Nik Ingersoll, everybody.
That's a good point. Yeah. So with MMA, actually, I think it's an interesting thing because with women's sports and before MMA was only a male sport, right? And it was also illegal in large parts of the country. And so it started there, and even Dana White was quoted as saying, "I'll never have females compete in the UFC," right? And it was primarily because of publicity, PR, how well is it going to look when some girl just gets knocked out, the public wasn't ready for it. But that's changed so much so that MMA, watching a female MMA fight is super exciting to watch.
Yeah.
And it's also because of their physical attributes. So typically their upper body strength is not as strong. So you don't get as many like really quick knockouts. You get way more technical striking.
Wow.
So like really, really technique oriented striking, which is very, at least for me, really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then also the flexibility is a whole different level.
Oh, I bet.
So when it goes to the ground, where normally a guy gets stuck inside control or whatever and can't get out, the girls can like put their legs behind their head, invert, do all this really crazy flexible jujitsu that makes it like super exciting to watch.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those sports where like it took a whole 180. It was like, oh, girls aren't allowed, and now it's some of the most exciting things to watch in
Right.
all sports.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've seen that as well too, and just them honing in on their craft and being able to get out of all those moves, as you said. Yeah, it's exciting for sure.
Yeah.
I would never do it, but it definitely more power to them. It's exciting to watch.
Yeah, well, getting punched in the face isn't the best long-term
Yeah.
strategy for your mental health, I don't think.
Yeah, no. I've just never been a fighter either, so that wouldn't do well for me.
Yeah.
Even with my younger brother, that, growing up, he would piss me off and I'd get so upset and I'd just be afraid to even push him just because I was afraid that he would get hurt.
Oh.
I know.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
I would say that about my brother, but then he would listen to this and be like, "You are a liar." Yeah, my brother and I have had a few spats. He's my
Yeah.
best friend, of course, but
Yeah.
we've had our fair share of spats.
That's too funny. Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah, it's normal.
And you fight now, so that's, yeah.
Well, now it's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But, when you're
exactly.
kids, it's a little more equal.
Yep.
And so you grew up in the city of Los Angeles, right?
Yes, I did.
So how has that been? You're one of the, it's like I've captured one of the rare LA natives.
Seriously, I feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, including myself, total transplant. How was it growing up in LA? And for a lot of people that listen to this, probably, LA is like this. Oh, it's Hollywood and it's, all this glitz and glam and movies
Right.
and whatever. But like, how was that whole thing growing up for you?
Well, it was great. I mean, I couldn't imagine growing up anywhere else, and I'm definitely an Angelino for life and love being in California, love my city, love LA. So I'm one of those people that definitely does not want to leave, obviously to travel, but never to live anywhere else. But I didn't realize that some of the stigmas and how you said, oh, Hollywood and the entertainment culture, everyone is pretty much at like 1 degree of separation away from the industry. And I didn't really think of that as a bad thing. I still don't think it's a bad thing, but I didn't realize that it actually is very true. My dad's an Academy member. He's been involved in the motion picture industry for over 20 years. And I just grew up with that. Like I would go to Hollywood screenings. I would, know people in the industry, friends of mine at school, their parents were actors or this or that. And it just seemed normal. It didn't seem like something of in a movie or on a TV show or that Hollywood life or whatever. So it's definitely part of me and it's part of growing up here. And I feel like anyone else that's from LA, they have some kind of tie to the industry as well, just because it's our backyard, especially I grew up in the Valley, Studio City, is very close to Hollywood. So I went to school, down the street from Hollywood. So I'm very much part of that Hollywood scene. And I love the beach too. So definitely, I wouldn't consider myself a beach bum, but all those things that people try and make LA people seem like, I guess I am, but not in a bad way. So,
Of course,
yeah.
I love LA too, and I find that people that are all LA natives that still live here say a similar thing. They love the city and they never want to leave. I think that's like it's a relatively common thing, actually.
Yeah.
And it is because I think there's a lot of negative perceptions of LA
Right.
For people that have never been here. But it's like a really beautiful and crazy place.
Yeah, and there's so much to do. People don't realize either, because I know I just talked a lot about Hollywood and being connected to Hollywood, but I have friends that have visited from even, other parts of the world, and their travel advisor says, oh, just spend a day in LA. I'm like, a day in LA? You need way more time than that. You can
Fire your travel
Yeah,
advisor.
exactly. Like, or 2 days and spend more time in San Francisco and more time in wherever, Vegas. And I'm just like, there's so much to do. LA County goes all the way down to Orange County and goes all the way north to Magic Mountain, so there's so much to see, so much to do, and so many different pockets and areas that are all very different. So that's the one thing I love. You get the mountains, you get the beach, you get the city, all in the one place.
Yeah.
So.
No, I feel like culturally here too, you have, I think it's a generational thing as well, but a lot of people are into health and fitness and wellness and all of that. And you have, your creation juices and you got your TuMes and your bananas and your this and your that. And then it's like sort of this hotbed for, health and fitness.
Right.
What is your fitness routine like these days?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to amp it up. Definitely, obviously, still with the hustle and bustle of work and being in LA, having to spend so much time in your car, drive, well, for you on your cycle, but drive everywhere, and the time that takes, it eats into your calendar, eats into your day. But I've been making more time for myself. I definitely, when I wake up, I meditate. That's key for me, just to kind of clear my mind and get ready for the day. And I consider that part of overall health and fitness. It's not just about, jumping on a bike or going for a run. It's really your mind as well, and taking care of your mind. So start with that, and then I usually get it depends on the day, but I'll either work out in the morning 3 days a week, or the rest of the time I'll work out in the evening. And I'll do like a high intensive workout, a little bit of mixture of weights, a little bit of cardio. I'm usually joined with friends because it just makes it easier, makes it fun, and being able to keep each other accountable. But and then I try and throw in some basketball there every now and then. So every like so often, go and shoot some hoops, even if it's just by myself, or do a pickup session. So that's really kind of more, I mean, I'm usually in the gym. I don't really like to run on the road so much. I really don't like running either. So
Me neither.
Yeah, so if I could avoid it and by any means, then that's what I'm going for. So
yeah, I feel like it's almost anything that I can do to get away, to do some cardio and not run.
Exactly. I know.
Great.
When I see you in the gym doing your MMA, I feel like that's how I am when I'm on the basketball court. It's like, okay, I need cardio, but I'm not going to do it just on the elliptical or running. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So are you doing like weight training? Is it primarily cardiovascular or sort of cross training, or?
Yeah, a little mixture of it all. So actually just started working out with the trainers as well, just to help me kind of fine tune, some of the workouts so that I don't get stagnant, don't get bored. And I'm able to work on some body correction to really work on my movement and get, as I'm getting older, I need to focus on other things, more stretching, more flexibility rather than just get up and go. And so combination of just doing mostly weights, and then a lot of different, body weight movement too. So, those burpees and, push-ups and TRX machine. So using all of that, and also getting out and getting on the stairs. So went back to my school, back to UCLA, and was on the track doing a track workout and going up and down the stadiums. So just really mixing it up. For me, I can't just do the same thing all the time. So, and I'm open to all the different, there's so many different like thoughts and ideas on fitness right now, and I feel like I want to try them all. So
yeah, I think with fitness too, it's like it's really easy to just get unmotivated and bored. Mm-hmm. So if you're not mixing it up in some way or learning something new, it's just so easy to fall off track.
Yeah, and everyone has a different idea and practice and style. From you have to really focus on just the mechanics to, CrossFit is all about just like power and speed and doing it as big and fast and as strong as you can, and just everything in between. And I'm open to trying it all. I think it's good for you just to have a healthy body movement. That's important. I think I've learned a lot just in overall health and happiness, that if you're moving your body, you're usually a lot happier. And so however that looks. I also actually did focus on the inside as well, and I've done a sugar detox for the past month.
Ooh.
Yeah, so no sugar, no carbs.
Going keto.
Yeah, pretty much going keto. Yeah, so only fruit I can have are bananas and green apples. So I've been loving banana as a snack since I'm a huge, my weakness is chips. That's my vice. So I've been able to get that craving through banana. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, but it's been tough. No wine, a lot of things were cut out, but it's important. You have to mix it up. That's the key.
Yeah, I cut out sugar almost entirely
Wow.
a few years back, and I was like super strict hardcore ketosis for 2 years. Like ridiculous. Like I would have like a bottle of olive oil in my pocket to go out to eat type of shit.
Really?
Yeah, like lunacy. People,
Yeah.
and I'd do it in secret. I'd be like pulling this little thing of olive oil out of my pocket and just kind of sneaking it on the
so
salad or
funny.
whatever. Like I didn't want anybody to find me out. You know, like what is this guy doing?
They can just give it to you at the restaurant. Olive oil seems like a staple.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, but if you're going to like some like what do you do when you go to In-N-Out?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Dipping your burger in olive oil.
Yeah, no, I mean with
Lettuce
this,
wrap.
yeah, exactly. I got it just yesterday. I had, was on the go, got a Chick-fil-A grilled chicken sandwich, lettuce wrap, and they're like, "Do you want sauce?" Because obviously they're known for their sauce. I'm like, no sauce. They're like, I was like, "There's no sauce on the sandwich, right?" And they said no. They're like, "But do you want sauce on the side?" I was like, "No."
Keep the sauce away.
No sauce for me. Jeez.
Well, I feel like, sort of the mindfulness, wellness, fitness, all those things sort of interact with each other, right? Like there's a Venn diagram where they all
Absolutely.
sort of meet. And even with fitness and working out, at least for me, if I'm not moving my physical body,
Right.
my brain does not work as well.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't, it's easier for me to get sad. It's easier for me to get mad. It's easier to just like feel less energy in general. And I feel like, people that don't have sort of an active workout routine, they don't really realize that that's affecting sort of their brain on a
100%.
daily basis.
100%. It's about all of those things that you mentioned. I couldn't say it any better. It's really important.
Yeah, and the meditation thing is an interesting layer too. I started meditating super long time ago. It was probably like 2009, I want to say.
Wow.
And it was purely because I was like in a terrible spot in life and like living in the hood and all this shit, and like it was just bad times. And so I would meditate as sort of an escape, as a reset, as a mental reset to sort of get back into the mode of being able to move forward and have motivation. And I think that meditation now has sort of this steam behind it finally. And you have all these different apps and things. Do you meditate just by yourself? Are you using an app? Are you doing a guided meditation, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, I do it by myself, actually. So I've tried to use some of the guided meditations every now and then. I've also used an app, when I really need to ground myself and get focused, but generally I'm able to do it on my own,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm able to wake up. I'm really able to focus and put my intent into whatever I need at that time, and also just to clear the space in my mind, because you take all the things that you said, and even from your own journey, people don't realize even the most positive people, even the strongest people, they still have all this stuff going on in between those ears. There's still a lot happening in that head, and how do you internalize it? And it sometimes ends up being toxic the way you're able to be strong, and just really you're just pushing it down. And so really focusing on how to kind of release that. And sometimes the release is just to clear it out of your mind. And meditation for me has helped a lot with that.
Yeah, so you said something that was really interesting there. You said, sometimes being strong is pushing it down, whereas when you're meditating, you're almost pushing it out.
Right. Exactly.
And, maybe you have to push it down sometimes, but to then have that exhaust, that meditation exhaust to push it out is so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's such an interesting concept.
Yeah, and I personally have been on my own journey through that, and starting a business, and I've had some personal things happen to me as far as relationship aspects, just life, it weighs on you, and I usually try and, when I get bogged down by it, and like you said, get a little bit more mad or sad, then I realize that's when I need to go towards meditating more, even more than once a day, just because you have to kind of clear yourself of what's happening and focus on the now and the present, and even on where you want it to be in the future, not where you think or the worry or the stress is taking you to. So
yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like, everybody has a struggle somewhere in their lives.
Yep.
And it's something where, oftentimes you don't know about it, you don't see it because it is invisible.
Right.
Struggle is invisible.
Right.
And,
right.
Like you said, you never know what's happening between
Yeah.
those 2 ears. And having sort of a personal protocol to deal with those times, I think, is so important. And something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and it changes over time, right? Like you were saying, oh, well, I detect that my mentality is even lower than it normally is. So instead of doing just my maintenance 1 time a day meditation, now I'm going to do it 2, 3, 4 times a day, whatever it is. And, go for a run. And then, whatever that protocol is, I think it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer, especially having gone through some things that I really had to focus on that and really pay more attention to it rather than just taking it for granted and just moving on or moving forward or pushing it down. That I think it's something that actually needs to be taught. People need to be, there's a conversation around mental health that it's, kind of releasing the stigma, and it's bringing it more into mainstream, and make people more aware. I know there's still people on both sides of the spectrum on how they think of it or they believe in it, but there just needs to be more dialogue. All of us are going through something, and that's life. That is what it is. You're not, unless you're facing something, then how do you know that you're really alive? And but how do you go through it, and like what happens next, and how do you process it, or how do you respond to it? That's the part that needs to be more of the focus.
That's right. I mean, everybody's defined by their reaction to any situation, right? And whether that's something happens in your relationship, something happens with your job or your business, or you break your leg, you get amputated, something horrible happens, your loved one dies, you become paralyzed. Like there's an infinite amount of terrible things that can happen to you besides death, where you're still alive, and you have to react to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I know you were talking a lot about sort of mental health and sort of bringing that more into the forefront, even with TuMe and everything else. Why do you think that just now it's starting to become something that is being a little bit less stigmatized, being destigmatized, and people are sort of speaking out about it a little more? And is it just our general understanding of it? Is it sort of a societal thing? Why and how do you think that happens?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, it's a societal thing, as well as, we take a lot from mainstream, from pop culture, from entertainment, from those heroes, those idols that we look to, and you're seeing more and more people that appear to have everything going for them taking their lives. And not just from, in the past, it just being partying and drug overdose because of being reckless. It's really intentional. And that raises a question as to why is this happening? And if it also erases kind of, everyone sees them as being great, so they don't think of it as being a bad thing. It's not just like the old-fashioned psycho ward type mentality, or loony bin, as all those things used to be called. It's more like, wow, something's really going on, and what is it? And I think also, unfortunately, just some political climate has a part of it, as well as just like terrorism in general, without getting too deep and too sad on the subject. But there's a lot of more fears that we have now than there were before, and that brings a lot of tension, anxiety, stress that people weren't normally used to. And being able to talk about those things, it's helpful.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's like a lot of people live in sort of this quiet despair, and it's really easy to be in a dark spot and think that you're the only one in the cave.
Right.
And when you think you're the only one in the cave, then you're more apt to do something bad. Exactly. Whereas if you already know that, like, oh, you're trapped in the cave, but you're also trapped in the cave with millions of other people. And also, there's a way out of there.
Yeah. And I know everyone has their own opinion and their own feeling for it, but I honestly think, like, faith, however that looks to you, I'm in touch with my religion, and I believe in God, and having your faith, I think, is a big part of it as well. And unfortunately, the way, again, things are, and where different religions are, you're seeing more corruption, or people are straying away because of polar extremes of like cultish behavior. So people are shying away from and not talking about religion in a way that is helpful for people. It's more just, I don't believe in it, or and they lose touch with that faith. And I think that's a big piece as well.
Yeah, I think that faith and I consider myself agnostic or atheist. I'm a non-believer.
Yeah.
But I do believe that having faith in something is extremely important, and whether that something is Jesus or Muhammad or Yahweh or Shiva or Vishnu or Odin or whatever it is, or yourself.
True.
Is the most important thing. Like, you have to have faith in something, even if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, well, I don't believe, I was in Catholic school, I don't believe this shit, whatever. Well, then have faith in yourself.
Correct.
Have faith in your future self, maybe it is, right? Because as soon as you lose sight of that, then it becomes very problematic, like you're saying. I think you do have to have sort of that ability to put something at a higher level, even if it's your own future self that you don't know your future self.
That's true.
Right? Like, you haven't met that person yet.
100%.
Like, who you were 10 years ago is a different person.
Correct.
And who you will be 10 years from now, totally different person too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is an interesting component of it. And I think, especially in big cities, at least, I grew up in a very small town. People are more prone to just kind of not have a sense of community, not have a sense of family or faith or anything really. Because people are kind of desensitized to human beings. It's like if my clutch cable on my motorcycle broke a while back, right on the freeway on the 10, and so I'm off on the side of the road. You know how many people stopped?
None.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. And if you did that same shit
bad.
in Western Nebraska, you would be annoyed because every single person would stop.
Trying to help you,
like,
trying to do something.
Yeah. Like, oh, you need any help? I'm like, oh, no, I got taken care of. Don't worry.
Yeah.
3 minutes later, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So
no, that's a good point. Everyone's living in their own silos here and head down. Power through,
Yeah, head down and power through is an important skill to have. But also, it's like you got to know if you're pressing something down that needs to be exhausted out of your body, like you were saying with meditation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And with turmeric too, and I think diet is oftentimes sort of moved aside from mental health, and like we were talking about running or working out or playing basketball or whatever, positively contributing to a positive mental attitude. The same could be said for diet.
Absolutely. I think all the things that we've talked about contribute to that. That's part of your life, right? That's part of how you need your mind, you need your body. You have to feel something within you, that faith, that future, that guiding light. And so having, come from a diet, what we consume, we need food in order to fuel our bodies to live. So all of those things come together. And yeah, you brought it back to turmeric. That's actually one of those powerful foods that is able to touch on all of those aspects. It's able to improve your diet. It's able to help with healing of your body. It's also great for your mind. It's really strong. It fires cognitive function, so it really helps with your brain and helps heal the brain. In those parts of the world that we talked about, where mostly they're eating it in their diet, that you don't find Alzheimer's disease, you don't find a lot of mental illness, and that's contributed to the powerful root that it is. So incorporating these things into your diet helps as well with the mental clarity. It helps with your overall peak performance. It helps, find that purpose. It's really that mind, body, soul connection. So
interesting. Yeah. And starting any business is so fucking hard, right? It's like, it's all on you.
Right.
You succeed, it's on you.
Yeah.
You fail, it's on you. There's no other option.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when things are stressful, which they almost always are in the startup world, what are your ways of dealing with that sort of stress or getting over that hurdle when something happens, a supplier can't get the product for a big order that came up, or an employee or something happens? Like, what do you do to sort of make sure that you don't fall into the trap of going down the hill of negativity and self-pity? I mean,
through this conversation, we've hit on everything. Definitely working out is key. I've noticed when I don't work out because I get bogged down in those stressful moments, then they compound and it becomes worse. So obviously finding that release and moving my body and working out, it's just naturally releases endorphins endorphins, and it's just an amazing experience to be able to, okay, we can push through this. Like, I'm alive, I'm healthy, we can make this happen. And then having a good support group. Like, I'm really, really fortunate to have amazing people in my life, just from the people that I'm constantly meeting, that I'm inspired by, from friends that I've had for years, and having them. I was just talking to someone yesterday that, I personally don't necessarily believe in therapy as something for me. If it helps other people, then it's great because it learns how to express themselves or have someone to talk to. But my friends have always been my therapist, being able to have really solid people that I can trust, that if I'm going through something, that I could bring it up to them and they can kind of help me see a different way of it, or just, bring some insight into their own personal life. That's very helpful to me. So having a good support system and having people around you, even outside of the work environment, outside of your actual startup, your business, your partners, your advisors, having people outside of that, for me, has been very helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
And what is like one of the more difficult sort of business situations you've come across? What are one of those things where like, oh, I didn't see that hurdle coming. I didn't see that boulder rolling down the hill that I had to jump out of the way. What are one of those things that you've seen thus far?
I mean, there's always something like you said. And I think the biggest hurdle is wanting and seeing yourself moving faster than what all the pieces are able to let you do. So, you have the vision, you even have created the demand, you've set things up, but then now, the distributor needs to come through, and now, okay, you need a little bit more money for that marketing. So you need to get that another partner or that investment in there, or just things need to catch up, or suppliers need to catch up, and the whole, okay, contact them and then wait 1 week till they respond, and then contact someone else, and then still be moving forward. I think the timeline and the time frame of where, as being a founder and having the vision and where we see the company going, and having everyone else kind of jump on board with our time frame has been challenging.
Yeah, it's patience.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's like it's the speed to execute, which is so vitally important to like do like getting the stuff, but then also having the patience to not freak out when it takes 12 weeks for your packaging or some bullshit. You're just like, but Whole Foods wants it right now. Like, what do you mean I gotta wait 12 weeks for a bottle cap or something, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's been the biggest thing. And the kind of putting all the pieces together at one time, like, especially right now where we are, I feel like a little bit of I don't know how, almost a circus wrangler, or a great mastermind, or whatever nicer way you could say it. But
puppet master.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to put everything in play at the same time. So have everything, all the dominoes fall. That's been pretty challenging. I'll be very, very happy, and I'm going to be proud of myself when it happens. But in the process, it's tough.
Oh yeah. It is a process too. And it's like, it's just all those things that you just don't know to plan for, right? It's like it's really easy to knock over a bunch of dominoes that are perfectly lined up.
Of course.
Bloop.
Yeah.
And then
good point. Yeah.
And then meanwhile, there's one domino just out the side, and you go, it goes, and then fucking the rest of the 100 just never fall.
I think the beatboxing is coming out a little bit too right now.
Yeah, my sound effects game. It's just like, so I don't realize that I do that sometimes.
It's awesome.
But yeah, you're right. Lining up all of the pieces to then have them fall in perfect succession is like, it's a beast to do. And I think a lot of people, they aspire to start something and do it and all of that, and they may have the idea, but the devil's in the execution.
Yeah.
And that can derail a lot of stuff.
Exactly. And what you said too earlier about patience, I think, I was talking to another startup founder the other day, and we're just saying how, you hear about before someone started something, and then you usually hear about when they're like this wildly successful person, and that whole, especially 0 to 3 years, and that whole startup grind, startup fatigue, people don't hear about that. So that's why you see people afraid of starting things, or you don't really know how to support someone or what they're going through, because we don't share that, our deep secrets, we don't talk about it, because it's very much of this up and down roller coaster.
That is a good point, actually. Absolutely. You do see sort of this thing where, people only talk about sort of their path and journey after they've come to some sort of opulent success, right? And that time between that 0 to 3 years, whatever that small time frame is in any given business, is often talked about only in retrospect. Right. Yeah. Not during the time that it's happening.
Yeah. I think personally, when I was asked about it, I think because one, you're so driven that you don't want to necessarily, you're thinking about the things that could go wrong. Of course, you have to in order to prepare, but you don't want to put that out there, and you don't want people to really know what's happening because you yourself are believing and seeing where you're going to be. And so, in my opinion, I think that's why it's not talked about as much. I
think you're right. You have to have absolute, just unrelenting faith in yourself and your ability to execute on what you're doing. And then simultaneously, you want to signal to the market, be that investors or whoever it is, that you are going to crush it and or are crushing it currently.
Exactly.
And, to show any defects in the armor makes it a lot easier for arrows to slide in and slam you in the torso. So there is sort of like outside pressures that cause that to happen. Yeah,
absolutely. But I'm sure you would agree that when I do give any advice, or just even for me in the much earlier stages, then I appreciate all the talks that you do and how you share a little bit more of that story and kind of open that up to people. But still, I would always say just start. Like I still, with anybody, would be like, just start, just go for it, just take that leap of faith, just know that it's going to be difficult, but don't stop. When everyone brings up to me about how, or if there are certain naysayers that are like, oh, it's a crowded market, or, how are you going to succeed? Or, all the big players are the ones that are dominating, and you need massive amounts of money to get there, et cetera, et cetera. It all, the list goes on with what naysayers, haters say. But the main thing that I tell them is the reason why people stop, and the reason why most businesses fail after 1 or 2 years, is because they don't have the patience to go through the bad times or the tough times or the obstacles or the execution. They just don't want to do it. They want that overnight success, and overnight success comes after 10 years, or shorter. But I'm saying overnight success is not overnight. So
exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if you listen to everybody else, you just wouldn't do anything.
Exactly.
And it's like, look, you may start some, you may want to be an entrepreneur, and then you start, and then you try it, and it turns out you suck. And that's okay too. But also it's like, if Michael Jordan never picked up a basketball, or Conor McGregor never put boxing gloves on and started kicking a bag, like they would never know that they would be great at those sports.
Absolutely.
And the same could be said for entrepreneurship. Like you don't know until you just do it and then see what happens. And, if there are the naysayers and the whatever, and people are like, oh, well, but the crowded market, all the stuff you're saying, it's like, yeah, but you know what? Fuck you. Fuck yourself. I don't care what you have to say. Because you're going to need $20 million to do that. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Oh, it's a crowded market. Sweet.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh, there's already a dominant player. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good. It's somebody to take down.
Exactly.
It's like it's you have to be able to take those seemingly negative factors and be able to turn them into something that motivates you to put that chip on your shoulder and just keep going forward.
100%. That's why it's exciting that you, like, yourself is like sharing that story and talking about that more, because it's not everyone thinks that way. It's not natural for a lot of people. So
it's true. It's true. And it's like, you're going to have doubters. You just
and anything that you do, and just walking out the house with what you're wearing, you'll have doubters, like hating on your style. So I mean, it does not matter how you cut your hair. Like that's the world we live in. So
well, I have a dumb haircut, and I know that it probably happens to me all the time. No one really says shit in public, probably wisely, but that's probably one of those things too.
No, it brings your character.
It is true, man. There's a lot of people that doubt you at every stage of no matter what you're doing. And I'll tell you what, even this podcast, even by virtue of me starting a podcast, which like I love to do this. I think it's just fun for me to chat with people like you and talk about interesting stuff. There'll be people guaranteed that are going to hate it. They won't even listen to a second, probably the entire thing, but they'll hate on it just because that's how people are.
Yeah, that's true. But that means you're doing something right. That's how I see it.
It's
that means
true.
You're doing something right. And I don't know who's going to hate on your show. Like, this is a long time coming. I think this is awesome. So I'm just excited to be on it, to be here talking to you with our Game of Thrones cloth behind us. I feel like I'm very much in the show. Yeah.
Are you Daenerys right now? You Cersei? How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm Daenerys always.
Daenerys always.
But I'm not a avid Game of Thrones watcher. I have to admit, I missed every single season except for this last one. I just decided to jump on the bandwagon.
That's fine.
And I've heard from fans that this is the worst season, and they're completely upset with it. But for me, I was like, oh, it was exciting to me.
Right? For someone who hasn't watched it before, it's like, this is fucking awesome. Dragons.
Pretty much, yeah.
Giants. And
exactly.
Wolves.
Exactly. I might go back and watch the seasons. I don't watch enough shows or TV, so that's the problem. But it's definitely exciting, and I feel like I'm there now from being here. So
yeah, I have a bunch of Icelandic sheepskins all over the place in my
that's wild.
studio
it's awesome.
here. So yeah, well, I couldn't think of a better way to end it, but why don't you plug a couple of things? TuMe beverages.
Yeah.
Where can you get them? How can you buy them? They're one of the most delicious turmeric drinks. Actually, the most delicious turmeric drink. I mean, it just like it's not even a question. Like it just is. But yeah, tell people where they can find them. And everything else.
I'm just gonna point everyone to our website and to social media because that's the best way to connect with us and really hear from us directly as a brand. So it's drinktome.com and it's TUME. TuMe Water is the brand, and you can also find us on all social media. Instagram is a way to go where you can shop on there as well. And coming to a store near you, Whole Foods is one of our key accounts, as well as on Amazon. So you'll start to see it more and more. And but right now, connect with us on our website for sure.
Awesome. And what is your Instagram handle?
Mine is Z, and my first name Shaina, so SHAINA. And our TuMe Instagram is TuMe Water. So.
Boom. Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we did it. First show.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Shaina. Thank you to TuMe. And thank you to Baranana. And thank you to you. Please subscribe and review the podcast. Share it with your friends. I would appreciate it 1,000,000 times over. And until next time, I'll chat at you then. Peace.